I think it's important for people to go through the process of self-assessment, because not only do you show up for like your family, your colleagues, the people that you work with, your clients, but you become a better advisor in the process of working out those things, right? And I think on these shows, we do talk about like, AUM is 1, now it's 10, now it's 100 million, right? But we never talk about like the person that is able to drive that sort of growth for their firm, right? And impact their clients. And not judging anybody, but, you know, the better person you are, I think, you know, you have a higher likelihood of being able to be a great advisor. Underline, italicize, bold, and everything that means, being able to guide people towards their goals. All right, welcome back to another episode of The Advisor Journey. I'm your host, Dasarte Yarnway. I'm alone today. Will is off for paternity leave. Will, we're thinking about you and we love you, but I have my good friend, Shawn Tydlaska, with me here today. Shawn, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me.
You've grown a firm from scratch. This podcast is about practice management, it's about growth, but it's also about doing it intentionally, right? So before we jump into that, why don't you just introduce yourself to the advisors that may be watching today?
Sure. I just had my 9-year anniversary. I started a firm called Ballast Point Financial Planning back in 2016. I was part of the XY community back then, probably one of the first 200 advisors. Back then, it was like, we didn't know if people would pay a subscription for financial planning. I think my first client was paying $150 a month. It was scary. I was new to the Bay Area. I had never been a lead planner before. Yeah, I was just like hustling, and it was kind of one of those build it and they will come, you know, kind of like Field of Dreams kind of a thing, and hung my shingle and just started putting myself out there and meeting people.
Let's talk about that. You started 9 years ago, 0 in assets under management. Like when you started your firm, what was the goal here? Just to like help people out? Because if I remember correctly, you just reached the revenue milestone, but you can talk about that. But let's go to the beginning. Starting from 0, what was sort of your game plan on how to grow your firm?
Yeah, if I look back then, it's incredible where we're at now. My original goal was to maybe have like 30 to 40 clients myself, and then that would take up maybe half of my time. I think a lot of us get into this profession because we want to help people. And so my original vision was try to think about how to make financial planning more scalable and reach more people. So I was thinking about doing teaching or creating online workshops. Yeah, just doing something to help more people out.
What were the challenges in trying to figure those things out? Because I feel like a lot of advisors come to the table, they're like, okay, I want to help a lot of people. I wasn't able to help people at the bank or at the wirehouse in the way that I imagined, so I'm going to start my own firm. Then you get this wake-up call. Like, this is a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be, right? So list out some of those challenges you might have had when you came out the gate to kind of build your client base.
Yeah, back then, there was no model for serving younger clients, and I think that was one reason I started my own firm. I worked at a firm in San Diego. Our minimum was $2 million. I wanted to work with people that were more just like regular people. And we were working with mostly pre-retirees and retirees. So then I went to business school at Michigan. And when I graduated, I moved to the Bay Area without a job, and I wanted to get into fintech. So I was like interviewing at companies like Betterment and Personal Capital, Wealthfront, NerdWallet, Credit Karma, just like everything kind of in fintech. And I couldn't find a spot, and so I decided to launch my own firm. And so some of the challenges early on were just creating templates for how to do financial planning for young professionals. Like they don't teach this stuff in the CFP curriculum, like student loans or credit scores or how to deal with debt or even creating a spending plan for somebody. Mm-hmm. So those were some of the initial challenges, and to be honest, I kind of liked that because it allowed me to be creative. I would look at different ideas of what other advisors were doing, and then kind of make it my own and use my kind of creative juices, and that was pretty cool.
Was it just you for that first like lift from, let's say, 0 to 25 million? When did you start hiring people on? Can you take us through sort of time stamping with AUM and revenue, how the firm changed over time?
Maybe it was about a year in, 18 months, I hired a professional paraplanning firm, and just for like maybe 10 hours a month, and they helped me create an operations manual and work on my my CRM. I think my vision for what I wanted to build kind of evolved from like that 30-40 and doing something that's more scalable to like really wanting to build an enterprise.
Yeah.
I still have aspirations and visions to do this one day. With two small kids, I'm kind of sticking a pin in this other vision of what I want to build. But what I was striving for was an enterprise firm, and I kind of liken it to like the next Edward Jones or Merrill Lynch or something like that, but like fee only, and like creating a pathway into this profession. That's part of the reason I helped start BLX, and I'm sure you're passionate about that with Onyx. Helping more people get started in the profession, and I kind of refer to myself as like an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't think about starting my own firm. I didn't like have visions like I always wanted to start my own business. I kind of felt like I had to do it. I didn't really have any other options. And back when I started my firm, my wife had a good job. We didn't have kids, didn't have a house, didn't have a dog.
Living a life.
Just had lots of time to pour myself into something. My wife, she went to Harvard Business School, and I think my vision for what success is kind of changed when I had that exposure there. She was there when Alexa Von Tobel, she was in the same class with her, who started LearnVest, and some of her peers started Birchbox, Rent the Runway, Blue Apron, just so many of these companies. And so it kind of changed my perspective of what's possible with business. So this is 2008 to 2010. And then I went to business school 2013 to 2015. I still want to build something big like that. Like I've talked with Jason Wank here at Altruist about like starting something pretty massive and raising capital. Coming back to the kind of growth story, I was like growing like crazy back then, like 3-4 clients a month. I remember onboarding 3 clients in 1 week, having those initial phone calls, even to the point where I took out a loan, an SBA loan, so that I could hire more people, reinvest in the business. At one point, I had 9 direct reports.
Wow.
For myself. And I didn't have the infrastructure in place to have I didn't have like an HR calendar, of like when we do our check-ins and give feedback. And I was just kind of imagining people would self-manage themselves, maybe naively. And some people didn't end up working out. And I'm actually writing a blog post for Kitsis right now about 9 things I got right or wrong.
First of all, this is incredible, right? Your growth story and just falling into the profession. I feel like a lot of advisors kind of do this route. They get exhausted, frustrated with sort of the traditional way, and then they start their own firms, right? You, on the other hand, had a totally different career track in mind, and you just seem to just fall into financial planning. You said a number of things to me that stand out. Number one, you wanted to make an enterprise business, which is still possible. I'm pretty sure making the decision in your mind to say, like, I want to go enterprise led to a certain course of action, right? So when that switch flipped, like, what did that drive you to do? Is that when you went to go hire the 9 people, get more technology? What happened there? Because I feel like a lot of advisors are trying to make that decision. Do I want a lifestyle business or do I want an enterprise business? And it's challenging. So take us through those mental gymnastics and your self-assessment that said, like, I want to do this one versus that one.
I mentioned I'm 9 years in. I think for the first 5 to 7 years, I was just grinding and grinding and grinding and growing and growing. And right now, I would say we're kind of more on this like measured growth path. I still want to grow. I still want to provide career tracks for my team, but I'm not like going gangbusters.
Right.
And I'm not trying to pursue this enterprise. So we're more kind of this like small giants. A lot of times we highlight on podcasts and shows just the advisors that they're doubling their firm every year. I compare myself to others a lot, and kind of I'm like, using that to like as like a benchmark for success of like, am I growing faster than these other people?
Right. A lot of advisors do that, right? And comparison is a thief of joy, as I would say. I think that's a problem that we have in the industry in general, but I do think that it's important for advisors to pick their path. I say that because if you pick a lifestyle practice, you're going to be led to do things that align with that goal, right? If you pick an enterprise to grow an enterprise practice, you have to pick things that align with that goal. Sometimes before you're ready, sometimes before you see the fruits of that labor, right? But you have to begin to align yourself with that. And I think one of the things that advisors may do wrong is compare themselves first and foremost, because they're trying to build someone else's practice and not a practice that works for themselves. Or they just don't choose at all. So they're always scrambling, right? And they feel like they're going gangbusters all the time and not able to invest in themselves or their family. So I ask you the question because I do think that it's important for advisors to choose. What are you trying to build? I remember Jason Wink when I was a practicing advisor, and he just gave me this sheet of papers like, here, complete this. And it basically went through like, how do I want to start my mornings? You know what I mean? How am I spending my time if I'm not working with my clients? When I'm working with clients, who are these people, right? What type of people are they? And am I going to enjoy being around them all the time? And I could honestly say, after going through that exercise, most of what I was building did not align with what I put on that paper, right? So I think for the advisors that are watching the show right now, it's important to start with the vision that you have in mind, because that's going to lead you down this path. Like if this, then build it this way, right? And I think that's super important. And eventually you got to that point.
Yeah, sometimes you get so busy with life and your business that you don't take time to reflect on that,
Right.
that sheet of paper. And yeah, just to tell you a little bit more, like, personal wise for me, I did define myself as like a business owner and get a lot of satisfaction out of my business. So in my free time, I liked looking at my inbox and doing client work because it feels good to be productive. And kind of getting back to that period of early COVID, I think it was pretty common where people were staying at home. They were drinking more often, or you kind of like got permission to like, oh, it's been stressful kind of dealing with this.
The world is over.
The world is over. You can't go out 6 feet away. And I wasn't happy with my relationship with alcohol at that point. And I wasn't like getting like blackout drunk every night, but I was probably having 2 or 3 beers pretty much every night. And I remember it was like December 12th, I had found out about this 90-day challenge to basically just stop drinking for 90 days. And I think I had always worried about my relationship with alcohol, if that was healthy or not. And at this point, yeah, we just had one kid, and you know, I wanted to like make sure that I was present in his life. And so I started with this 90-day challenge. I made it to the 90 days and I kind of reevaluated, and it was hard. It was really hard to do that. And I haven't drank since. And like I think about if I did go back, like, is it worth it? And like for me, it's like the downside of drinking isn't worth like the positives of getting a good night's sleep and like a healthier lifestyle. And I say that to share, like, I think I was using alcohol, like I would work really hard and I would tell myself, I earned this. Like I earned this beer at the end of the night, and it's a celebration. Maybe I signed a client, and that's how I justify it. But really, I think it was masking or suppressing or self-medicating some other personal issues I was dealing with. And after I stopped drinking, I actually got like sadder and more unhappy with my life. And like, I think some personal issues were kind of bubbling up, you know, that I was suppressing down. And I was turning 40 right around then. We had our second kid, and I was worried about turning 40 and that my life was over. And like, I'm very into running, and I was worried about getting hurt. And then I ended up having this pain in my, like near my sit bones, and never got it diagnosed. And I think it's all related to like, if you're not in a good mental headspace, your body reacts. Yeah. And there was a period of like 2 or 3 years there where I was just going from one injury to the next, to the next, to the next. And I had to do a lot of work on myself to kind of like that sheet that Jason gave you of like, who am I besides a business owner or besides a runner? Like, how do I show up for my friends and family? And a lot of therapy, and kind of reevaluating what I wanted out of life, and kind of move from this, you know, guns blazing, growth to kind of where I'm at now with this kind of measured growth. We were talking before the show about like thinking about selling your practice, because I think that was a major head shift for me as well.
Yeah, but before we get to selling the practice, first of all, thanks for being vulnerable. I think a lot of advisors might struggle with similar things. And I think it's important for people to go through the process of self-assessment, because not only do you show up for like your family, your colleagues, the people that you work with, your clients, but you become a better advisor in the process of
Yeah.
working out those things, right?
Yeah.
And I think on these shows we do talk about like AUM is 1, now it's 10, now it's 100 million, right? But we never talk about like the person that is able to drive that sort of growth for their firm, right? And impact their clients. And, not judging anybody, but the better person you are, I think, you have a higher likelihood of being able to be a great advisor. Underline, italicize, bold, and everything that means, being able to guide people towards their goals, right? So kudos to you. We can talk about selling, but I want to first talk about that Kitces article that's going to come out, right? You talk about 9 things that you wish you did, wish you didn't do. Okay. Why don't you go through that list for us so we can kind of get the inside scoop of what you think you could have done better or you did well?
I think I'm kind of using the angle of like 9 things that I got right or 9 things that I got wrong. So some of the things that I feel like I got right was taking a chance on myself. I feel like that was a safe time in my life to do that. Treating my business like a business, having a business plan. Early on, I would do quarterly retreats where I would just go by myself and spend 2 days in a remote location and just work on the business plan, what I did well the last quarter, what I want to work on the next quarter. Yeah, really being analytical with the business. This kind of ties back to what we were just talking about, but some of the things I got wrong was I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't getting my head right. And like you were saying, it making you a better advisor. Like, yeah, there was a couple times where I wasn't the best advisor for my clients, like not showing up fully prepared during the year. And yeah, I wasn't happy about that. But getting back to like something I did right was like, yeah, I did like a lot of work on myself and getting like a lot of support in that area with a therapist, like a business coach. Like right now, I do feel like a lot happier. Like I think for a long time I was like not super happy with my like station in life, with like what I've achieved. And on paper, like I live in Burlingame, we have a home, 2 beautiful kids, and like both careers, and everything should seem like great, but just intrinsically, like in my heart, like I wasn't feeling great. But like I'm happy for where I'm at now. One thing I think that I didn't get right was the trying to grow too fast.
Talk to me more about that, because every advisor that I talk to, they're in the DMs, they're like, how are these people growing so fast? You know what I mean? They want the cheat codes on growing fast. But you're saying you grew too fast. Why is that?
Yeah, I think like I was mentioning, I didn't have like the HR systems in place, and like when do I do, like I wasn't meeting with my team. Like right now I do one-on-one meetings every other week with my direct reports, and we do twice a year documented feedback. Having career tracks for people. When we had those 9 people on the team, I think there was like 5 lead advisors, and to support that growth, we need to bring on like 8 or 10 clients a month, and we did that for a couple of months, but that's just not sustainable for like where I was at. And I didn't have like a chief operations officer. I didn't have like the infrastructure in place for that, even though we had like a decent amount of leads and coming in. It just wasn't like sustainable there.
I think people want growth because at the end of the day, growth means revenue. Revenue means more comfortable life, being able to run your business and maybe detach a little bit so it runs without you. And who doesn't want that, right? A lot of advisors want something that is a well-oiled machine, but there are cons to growth, especially if you're not prepared for the growth that it comes with. So I'm hearing a couple themes here, and I just want to regurgitate for the advisors, as I sometimes do. Number 1, take care of yourself. right? Yeah, you will not be the best advisor that you can be if you don't take care of yourself. And that's a lesson that is near and dear to me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of advisors will resonate with that after watching this episode. Number two, really make the decision on what you want to build. And I think that's something that I learned from Jason very early on. Jason actually just did a LinkedIn post. He was like, if you look at the beginning deck for Altruist, we've done pretty much everything we said we were going to do. And I think about advisors, like if you kind of write your blueprint, could you say you've done everything you said you were going to do over a 3, 5, 10-year period? And I would probably bet that most advisors can't, right? They're not building what they want to build or what brings them the most joy. So figure out what you want to build. And then number three, I think you said it best, like infrastructure as you grow, you gotta pave the road so it goes smoothly, you know? And I think we skip that step because we're just overwhelmed with sort of the growth metrics and what could be, you know? So if you pave the roads, now you can create an operation that is able to go to and fro smoothly, onboarding process, documenting everything, compliance, right? Hiring when, like you can mathematically figure out when you need to hire the next candidate, right? So I think you're hitting on a lot of themes here that will resonate with a lot of advisors. My next question though is $1 million, right? A milestone for many advisors, right? Congratulations to you. You thought about selling and you decided not to. Like take us through that journey because I know a lot of advisors someday wish that they can sell their firms.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a big milestone for us. And actually, just last week, I took the whole team to Hawaii with their families. So there was 15 of us. We set this big audacious goal, I think about 5 years ago, to hit this milestone. And I made this promise on a bar napkin of what we would do.
Was that right before you stopped drinking? A napkin?
I think I had stopped drinking at that point, and we were taking like oyster shooters in Denver, at a conference. Yeah, I mentioned like kind of not being happy with myself or just where I was at, and you hear that saying like be intentional with what you're building, and it's hard sometimes. You're in the moment, and you think you want one thing, and it's hard to kind of zoom out. And so, yeah, at one point I did think about selling my firm. I was kind of feeling, to be honest, just like kind of trapped that I had set myself down this path and had to keep going on this hamster wheel. I just started, I was just kind of curious and started exploring that and what that would look like. And yeah, you mentioned like the dream about making the practice sellable or just like working without you.
Yeah, self-sufficient.
Like a self-running business. So I took some steps to kind of remove me from the bottleneck. I think kind of when I was at the hardest part of the business, I had like 70 clients myself. I was doing all the business development calls. I had those 9 reports. I was reviewing like all those tax returns. Since then, I've transitioned about 40 of those clients, so I'm now the lead on about 30. I've been working a lot with Herbers and Company to create those career tracks, a compensation model that rewards the right incentives of like growing the revenue for the firm, and everyone participates in the growth there. And then when I explored, okay, what would it look like if we were to sell to somebody? Who would that be? How would that work? Would people be interested in our firm? And it was almost like kind of cathartic, to go through that and to like kind of feel like, oh, there are people that would be interested. I ultimately decided not to go that route, but just like kind of having that. It was like a release, I guess, and I didn't feel trapped. And then after I went through that process, there were some things I was really, really excited about with the business, and I think that was a pivotal point for me where we decided to bring tax prep in-house, and I hired a CPA, and I was really excited about that. And we decided to start charging for tax prep. We used to have it all be included in one flat fee, and now the revenue that we bring in from tax prep pretty much covers the CPA's compensation for the year. One of the next things we're going to work on with Herbers and Company is like a 5-year growth path, like with a hiring plan. And then from there, a pathway to partnership. Like what are the expectations? I have a few people at my firm that have been there 3-4 years, and we've talked about like, yeah, there's going to be opportunity to buy in one day, but like we don't have the mechanics set up. And I think that'd be valuable for me and for the team to kind of have a line of sight for that.
No, absolutely. First and foremost, you're doing an incredible job. So I just want to make sure that I reiterate that on the call. You mentioned Herbert and Companies. Can you explain what that is for advisors who might want to look into similar infrastructure building?
As you ebb and flow in your business, you're going to hit these growth barriers, and it's like pretty predictable growth barriers. And like at 1.2 million of revenue, you need to look at your service model for delivering financial planning, and then like your human capital. And so Herbers and Company, they're kind of like a management consultant company for growing firms, and the stuff that I'm doing is like totally in their wheelhouse. I actually worked with them back in 2021 with the career tracks and compensation model, and I think back then I was like, no, we're different. We're like, I tried to customize some of their best practices a little too much, and I think now I'm kind of just going with their, the best practices that works for a lot of the firms that they work with. We meet every other week, and we kind of I've been working with them since the beginning of the year, so it's been like 6-7 months working with them. Yeah, we kind of have a progression of the things we work on. And again, kind of the very first step is mission, vision, values. What are you trying to build? What are the core values of your firm, core values for you? And then embedded in that is, okay, in 3 years, what does it look like? What is the number of revenue? They're big on this model, like a diamond teams model. We can probably link to like their white paper there about, and that's a good way to think about a career progression for someone that's entering the profession. But yeah, I've been really happy working with them, and there's still quite a bit to do.
So I got some more questions for you. Since you're working on this already, like what is the goal in the next 3 years, 5 years, right? Because I think it's still important to have a line of sight towards what you want. It seems like partnership is one of those goals. And then my next question is surrounding marketing, because I don't think we covered it in full, but you talked about Yelp. But let's get that 3 to 5 year goal, and then we can go back and talk about marketing tactics, especially in the early days.
The 3-year goal, we're at 1.3 million of revenue. The 3-year goal is to get to like 1.9. I think it's like 165 clients. We're at like about 135 right now. So our average revenue for financial planning and investment management is about like $8,000 per client. So increasing our average revenue per client, increasing the number of clients per advisor. Right now, I only have like 30 clients, and then my team has like 55 and 45, and we're trying to get each one of them up to 70. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned at one point we had 5 lead advisors. And at the highest point, I think we've only had like 145 clients. So we had way more capacity than clients. So kind of the goal is to kind of grow into our capacity right now. Get those lead advisors. There's 2 lead advisors, and get them up to like that 70 clients. Also on our roadmap, I'm working right now with a company called FinArt to rebrand our website.
Josh.
Yeah, you know Josh?
My guy.
Yeah.
Shout out Josh from FinArt if you haven't checked out.
Josh and Colton.
Yeah.
And I never loved the name Ballast Point. And again, like with the drinking too, Ballast Point's a brewery in San Diego. I kind of had that name as like a placeholder originally. And then like now we're here 9 years, almost 10 years. So we're looking at rebranding the name and also kind of niching. I was kind of against niching initially, but I think there's a lot of things that make sense about niching. So we kind of looked around our client base about who we like working with. I get like a lot of like some of our best clients who value what we do. And so we're going to niche and we're working on the right term for this, but essentially it's like high-achieving women, professional women, or breadwinning women, or career-driven women and their families. I think it's an underserved market. They appreciate the work. They're some of our best referrers. So we're planning to rename Ballast Point to a new name, and then at the same time, kind of announce like a new kind of, not like we're not going to like service our clients well still, but like we're going to service you, and we're also it's going to be an and, not a but, in terms of like who we're going to focus on next.
I love that. I think the niching is the future of RIAs. You know what I mean? While there is a place for generalists, I don't want to get chewed up in the comments, right? I think a lot of firms that are going to grow super fast are going to be niching down. And that's something that we've been talking about on this podcast for years. So I'm starting to see it more often. People are like, I serve, in the Bay Area, professionals that work in technology, or just Costco employees, right? And by being a specialist for just these companies or just these people, you find yourself growing really, really fast.
And we kind of looked around also, everyone that works at my company, and we're either in a relationship with someone that's the breadwinning woman, or they were the breadwinning woman of their family. I don't know if I love that term, breadwinning women, but we'll work on that with Josh.
Hey, I want to ask you for a couple just words of advice for advisors before we let you go. What are some things that you want to impart on them, right? You've gone through just this journey of self-reflection. You've gone through growing a firm from $0 to $1 million per year and counting, right? And you've been able to create a wonderful team, family, and community. So talk to us a little bit about what advisors should think about as they try to build their own firms.
Yeah, when I was prepping for this conversation, I don't think we talk about kind of the ebbs and flows of your, it's called the advisor journey, this podcast. And so like, this is the journey that I've been on. And I think I wanted to kind of maybe normalize that, like at different seasons of life, you're going to have different priorities, especially with young kids. And in terms of the marketing, I do have a couple of quick tips that might be helpful for the audience. For us, we try to make our website have one job, and the job is to set up new appointments. So everything in our website is like pointed towards set up an initial consultation here. We don't ask for any information when they fill out the calendar invite. It's just their name, email, and their phone number. And then once they set up the appointment, then we send them a Google survey to enter their financial information and what they're looking for. So it's kind of like a progression of escalation of commitment there. And consistently, since we started, we had about 100 inbound inquiries every year. I wouldn't be afraid of Yelp, and kind of look at the rules about how that works and testimonials work. You can even have testimonials on your homepage. You guys had Root on recently. And if I'm like dreaming, like I am like so impressed with their growth, that would be like the model that I would want to build if I was kind of going like super fast. But anyways, I would look at Yelp and the Google reviews. I think the one thing that that you need to be aware of is you can't just cherry pick your favorite clients and just ask them to write reviews. If you ask one, you got to ask all of them. So how I've done it is I email all of my clients, and I kind of say like business update, and kind of just like let them know like, okay, we just crossed $1 million. We went to Hawaii to celebrate as a team and bond. We really appreciate you as clients entrusting us with your money. If you know someone that might want, to receive that same level of service or benefit like you have, a lot of people find us on Yelp. If you wouldn't mind writing a review on Yelp. And so you kind of check that box that you ask everybody. Yeah. And I do that once a year. And then if someone gives you a compliment, be like, oh, thank you so much. Like, would you mind just dropping that in a Yelp review? So it's kind of easy to kind of build those, the reviews that way.
Awesome. Shawn, where can people find you if they want to learn from you, if they resonate with your experience and might need some tips? Where do they find Shawn?
Yeah, I'm not like super active on social, but I think probably the best way is through LinkedIn, and we can connect there.
Awesome, Shawn. Well, I appreciate you for joining me here on the Advisor Journey. It won't be the last time. Looking forward to hearing how you built the team out, get to that $1.9 million goal with a whole new set of team members. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Advisor Journey. You know where to find us, www.altruist.com/podcast. And we'll see you here on the next one. Thanks, Shawn.
Thank you, Dasarte.
Thank you for listening to the Advisor Journey by Altruist. Brokerage-related products and services are provided by Altruist Financial LLC, a member of FINRA/SIPC. Results may vary. Altruist and its affiliates do not provide tax or legal advice.